So now we are at the point of the amniotes. And what is this new invention? The new invention last time was having four legs, the tetrapods. This new one was the amniotic egg. The amniotic egg does a few things, but the biggest thing it does is it allows these tetrapods, the reptiles, to be freed from needing a body of fresh water immediately nearby. Amphibians were living out of water most of the time, which allowed them to get away from some of the predators that were eating their fishy friends, right? But they still had to go dip back in every so often, and they needed their offspring to grow up there. Once the amniotic egg was invented, then they are now independent of bodies of water. The thing is, with the amniotic egg, we now have got reptiles, and reptiles are kind of a complicated group of animals now. Reptiles include all of these guys. Previously, you would have said, oh, sure, lizards and snakes and crocodiles, definitely they're reptiles. You might have put dinosaurs in there as well. And I think technically they were or are, but you probably wouldn't have put birds in there. And that's one of the things that makes the reptiles kind of a tricky little group of animals. The lizards and snakes are actually pretty closely related to each other. You can think of snakes as lizards that have lost their legs. It turns out that when you're living in an area that's got lots of sand or really dense dry grass, having no legs lets you move a little bit faster. So there is strong evidence that snakes are descended from reptiles that had legs. So snakes are descended from a lizard-like animal. And then we've got these guys, the crocodilians, crocodiles, alligators, and garrels or something like that. And then we've got birds, and technically birds are actually reptiles. Also, birds are the descendants of the kind of dinosaurs that were like the T-Rex and the Velociraptor. They are relatives of those guys. So they're considered to be living descendants of a type of dinosaur. If you look at the feet and legs of a bird, you'll go, oh, sure, that looks like the feet and legs of a lizard or a crocodile. I mean, it definitely looks like the foot of a maybe an iguana or something like that. And the bills on their face kind of looks like the beak on a turtle. Oh, turtles aren't on here. Turtles are also reptiles. But their scales have been modified into feathers, all right? Let's talk a little bit about the amniotic egg. Did I start my time? Darn it. Better start my time. Okay, the amniotic egg. The amniotic egg is a waterproof little enclosed capsule that is an invention. Oh, it kind of reminds me of a seed. Remember I told you the seed was like when Superman as Kal-El gets sent into the future with this little space capsule? Amniotic eggs are like that. Now, the disadvantage of an amniotic egg is the mom. Here's the mother snake right here. She has to invest a lot of energy into each one of these eggs. So a reptile can kick out, hundreds of their eggs because there's almost no food put into the little package that a mother amphibian makes because their babies hatch out, become larvae, feed themselves. You know the story. Whereas with the amniotic egg, all of the food that it takes to become a baby snake, or this is going to be a baby turtle, all the food that it takes to become a little tiny version of that animal needs to get packaged into the egg. So the maternal investment into each egg is much, much, much larger. But the egg keeps the egg shell and the membranes keep the moisture inside of the egg so that this animal is no longer dependent on the water. Reptiles do not do metamorphosis. There's no need. All of the different stages of their life happen inside of the amniote egg. Okay. Oh, technically, the amniote egg we see in reptiles and birds and in the egg-laying mammals. But all of the animals from reptiles up are considered amniotes because they do have the membranes that are amniotic membranes, even though they no longer lay an egg. So let's talk about reptiles. Most reptiles are ectotherms. The alligators, kind of ectotherms. The birds, not ectotherms. Sometimes when scientists talk about reptiles, they'll talk about the non-avian reptiles and the avian reptiles, because the avians definitely are not ectotherms. Ectotherms get their body heat from the environment. Endotherms are things like mammals and birds. They make their own body heat. So all of these guys. By the way, crocodiles, this is a crocodile, crocodiles will take care of their offspring for the first couple years of their lives. We think of reptiles as like laying eggs and letting go of them, but actually they're pretty good parents. Even the males take care of their offspring for a couple of years. So the amniote egg, very important. What else is really important about reptiles? They have got a waterproof skin that is even more waterproof than a toad's is. This means that when you touch a reptile, whether it's a snake or a turtle or an alligator, it is not moist. It is definitely not slimy at all. They have no mucus or anything slimy on the outside of them. It does mean that they cannot breathe through their skin anymore. Amphibians mostly can breathe through their skin. These guys cannot, so they needed to have a more sophisticated set of lungs. The birds, have got the most sophisticated lungs of any animal on the planet. They have got more sophisticated lungs than mammals do. And that is one of their adaptations for flight. Birds evolved from small two-legged dinosaurs. You know how the velociraptors would walk on their back legs? So they share a lineage with the birds. Almost every part of bird anatomy is modified for flight. I think this is one of the questions on your lab activity. Their bones are very light and honeycombed. Bones of the same size between a mammal and a bird. The bird bone is less than half the weight. Also, the fact that birds still lay eggs is also a modification for flight. If birds were pregnant, then they would get so heavy as they got to the time that their babies were ready to hatch that they couldn't fly. So they keep laying eggs because it allows them to keep flying. Their scales got highly modified into feathers. We now believe that some of the dinosaurs, like the velociraptor, may have been covered with feathers. Feathers are really good for flight, but feathers at the beginning were probably used to keep those dinosaurs warm in cooler weather, allowing them to move away from the equator to less warm regions, because feathers can keep you warm, like they keep a penguin warm. And also feathers can be brightly colored and could allow those dinosaurs to, to do the kind of things that bright colors allow birds to do, find mates and stuff. And birds have got really, really incredible lungs, lungs that get more oxygen from every breath of air than our lungs do. Okay? This is a frigate bird, kind of like a maximum bird. This bird has got a wingspan of about 7 feet. Now, just to give you a perspective, from one tip of your fingers to another for you is probably 5 or 6 feet. So that means when you stretch out a frigate bird, it's even longer, 7 feet. but they only weigh 2 or 3 pounds. Your cat probably weighs 10 or 12 or more, depending on how fat your cat is, right? So they only weigh 2 or 3 pounds. These guys are so comfortable in the air that they will spend most of their time just like hanging in the air. If you ever see them in real life, frigate birds you will think it's a drone or something mechanical, and they'll just hold still, just soaring in the air. They're really, really remarkable. All right, our last video will be about the mammals.